Pulse Talk, bringing insights into health and wellness with your hosts, Christine and Alex.
Okay, so you've got this amazing trip to Malaysia coming up. I am already so jealous thinking about all the incredible food and the sights you're going to see. But before you get totally lost in those travel brochures, we need to have a little chat about something that doesn't always make the cut in those glossy travel blogs.
Yeah, we're talking about dengue fever.
Right. Like, it's one thing to be daydreaming about beaches, but dengue fever, not so much.
Not exactly the stuff of travel dreams, but seriously, it's something to be aware of. Like, we were looking at some stuff from Alpro Clinic, their medical provider over in Malaysia, and they straight up called dengue a serious illness. They even go as far as comparing it to, like, getting slammed with a severe flu.
Okay, so not just a little sniffle then.
No, not at all. And the thing is, it can actually turn really serious in some cases.
Like, how serious are we talking here?
So, when it gets bad, we're talking about things like dengue hemorrhagic fever, or even dengue shock syndrome.
Those sound intense.
Yeah, there's serious complications. And what really worries me is that it seems like kids under 15 are particularly vulnerable to those severe cases.
Wow, okay, that definitely throws a wrench in the whole it's just a bug bite mentality.
Right, it's not something to mess around with. And, it's interesting because dengue can actually be tricky to diagnose. We were reading this article in Bernama, that Malaysian news outlet, and apparently it's often mistaken for other things, even COVID.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, the symptoms can be super similar, which makes it easy to misdiagnose, even for doctors, which is kind of scary if you think about it.
That is a little unnerving, to be honest. It makes you realize how important it is to, actually get a proper diagnosis quickly. Speaking of which, I feel like dengue comes with its own set of myths and rumors. Everyone's got a home remedy or a theory or something.
Totally, like that whole thing about, if you've had dengue once, you're immune forever.
Right.
Completely false.
So much for that superhero theory.
Right. The article we were talking about actually debunked that one pretty thoroughly. Turns out there are four different types of the dengue virus. So even if you've battled one, you could still get hit with another.
Okay, so one and done does not apply to dengue. Good to know. What about that idea that you're only at risk if you're, trekking through the jungle or something?
Another myth. It sounds right, but the reality is infected mosquitoes, they don't discriminate. They'll bite you indoors just as easily as they will outdoors.
So much for my air-conditioned haven plan.
Right. The article really emphasized that. It's a risk for entire households, even if you're just chilling in your hotel room.
Okay, well, that is definitely not what I wanted to hear. So, we know it's the Aedes mosquito we're talking about, but I've also heard that not every Aedes mosquito actually carries the dengue virus. Is that right?
You're right. Not everyone's out to get you. They actually have to have bitten an infected person first before they can pass it on.
So it's like a mosquito lottery you really don't want to win.
Tell me about it. And there's no way to tell which ones are carrying it just by looking.
Okay, so on that happy note, I guess that's why it's so important to just focus on preventing bites in the first place.
Absolutely. Prevention is key.
Which leads me to my next question, and I have to ask about this because I swear I hear it everywhere. Lemongrass. Does planting it around your house or your hotel room actually help? Does it actually repel mosquitoes?
Honestly, save your money and invest in some good bug spray instead.
Really?
Lemongrass does have citronella, which can repel mosquitoes, but the article we were looking at, it wasn't exactly singing its praises. Apparently, in its natural form, it's not that effective.
Yeah, so no need to turn my suitcase into a mobile lemongrass garden.
Probably not, no. Though they did mention that citronella extract, like what you find in essential oils, might work a little better for short-term protection.
Huh. Okay, so there's a difference between the plant itself and the concentrated stuff. But wait, hold on. You're not suggesting I douse myself in undiluted essential oils, right? Because something tells me that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. In fact, the article specifically warned against that, especially when it comes to kids.
Yeah.
Apparently it can be toxic and even trigger allergic reactions.
Okay, good to know. And always a good reminder that even with natural remedies, you can't just go wild. Do your research, people. This is good stuff because honestly, I was ready to stock up on a million citronella candles.
Right.
But you know what? All this talk about prevention, it kind of reminds me of that message we got from Alpro Clinic. They seem to be really big on dengue vaccination, and honestly, after everything we've just talked about, I'm starting to see why.
And this is where things get even more interesting. There have been some really exciting developments on that front. We came across this press release from Takeda, Malaysia, Have you heard of it?
I think so.
Well, it talks about a dengue vaccine called Qdenga.
Qdenga. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's the one I keep seeing everywhere online, so tell me more.
So this isn't just any dengue vaccine. All right, this is actually the first one that's been approved for people who haven't even had dengue before, which is huge, especially for, like, travelers.
Oh, wow. So you mean it's not just about treating dengue, but actually preventing it in the first place?
Exactly. It's a preventative measure.
Okay, now we're talking. That's a game changer. But how effective are we talking? Like, does it actually work?
Right, so the data is actually really promising. They're saying it has something like an 80.2% efficacy rate when it comes to preventing symptomatic dengue, and this is after 12 months of getting the vaccine. So,
wow. So hold on. So even if, God forbid, you were to get bitten by an infected mosquito, this vaccine could drastically reduce your chances of getting really sick.
yep, that's the gist of it. And, cherry on top, it's been approved for a really wide range of ages, starting from like 4 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay, so families who are traveling together, they don't have to worry as much.
Exactly, which is a huge relief for parents, I'm sure.
Big time. Okay, so this all sounds, frankly, a little too good to be true. I have to ask the practical question. How easy is it to actually get this vaccine if I'm planning a trip soon?
Well, remember that message we were talking about earlier from Alpro Clinic?
Yeah.
Well, they're actually ahead of the game because that press release we were looking at, it mentioned that Qdenga is actually available at private clinics and hospitals across Malaysia, and that includes all Alpro Clinic locations.
Wait, so you're telling me that I could potentially just walk into an Alpro clinic when I get there and get vaccinated?
Pretty much. I mean, obviously you'll want to check about appointments and stuff, maybe any specific requirements, but the option is definitely there.
That is incredible. Honestly, knowing that this is even an option, it really puts my mind at ease.
That's exactly what we want you to take away from this deep dive. You know, dengue is a real thing in Malaysia, but it shouldn't control your whole trip, right? Knowledge is power, as they say, and now you've got the facts and the resources to, stay safe.
Seriously, this has been like a total eye-opener. I cannot believe how much I've learned about a topic that I knew so little about.
It's amazing what a little bit of research can do.
Right. You basically just handed me a dengue decoder ring. But before we get too carried away, I do want to say this very clearly for our listeners. We are not medical professionals, just to be super clear. So this is not a time to self-diagnose or make any decisions based solely on what we've talked about today.
100%. We can't stress that enough. This is really just about giving you the information you need to start a conversation with your doctor who actually knows your medical history.
Honestly, I feel so much more prepared now knowing all this stuff. It's amazing.
That's fantastic to hear.
And speaking of being prepared, you mentioned that Qdenga, it's available for people who actually live in Malaysia too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not just for us tourists.
Which makes me think, if more people, locals and tourists alike, if more of them get vaccinated, wouldn't that make Malaysia a safer place for everyone?
Exactly. It's like this ripple effect. The more people who are protected, the harder it is for the virus to spread.
It's like that whole idea of community immunity we always hear about.
Right. When you protect yourself, you're also helping to protect everyone around you.
It's a win-win for everyone. Okay, so as we wrap things up for our listeners today, if there was one big takeaway, one important thing you want them to remember about dengue fever in Malaysia, what would it be?
That's easy. Dengue is a real concern. Absolutely. But it shouldn't be the thing that stops you from experiencing all the amazing things that Malaysia has to offer. So do your research. Arm yourself with information. Talk to your doctor. Make the best decision for your health, for your trip.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Talk to your doctor, weigh your options, and then get ready to enjoy those beautiful beaches, that incredible Malaysian hospitality.
Don't forget that bug spray just in case, though.
Always good advice. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into dengue fever in Malaysia. Until next time, stay curious and safe travels, everyone.